The blood dripped slowly from the foretube as Emma Winters, CEO of Winters Enterprises, clutched her daughter's pale hand. Across the hospital room sat Marcus Rivera, the janitor she'd humiliated just days before, now silently giving the rare blood type that would save her child's life. Their eyes met across the sterile space, and in that moment, Emma realized how terribly wrong she had been about the man she deemed beneath her notice. If you're moved by stories of redemption and second chances, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories that remind us of our shared humanity. Marcus hadn't always been a janitor. 10 years earlier, he'd been Dr. Marcus Rivera, one of the most promising cardiovascular surgeons at Boston Memorial. His wife Sophia had been his rock, his compass, the reason he pushed through grueling 30-hour shifts and mountains of medical school debt. When their daughter Lily was born, his world felt complete. Then came the accident. A rainy night, a truck driver who fell asleep at the wheel, and suddenly Marcus was a widower with a 3-year-old daughter and a shattered hand that would never again hold a scalpel with the precision required of a surgeon. The medical community that had once celebrated him quickly forgot his name. The insurance money covered Sophia's funeral and little else. "Daddy, why are you crying?" Lily had asked one night as Marcus sat at their kitchen table surrounded by past due notices. "Sometimes grown-ups cry when they're figuring things out," he'd answered, wiping his eyes and forcing a smile. "But I promise you, I'm going to figure this out." And he had. He'd taken the first job he could find, night janitor at Winters Enterprises, the gleaming skyscraper downtown. The hours meant he could see Lily off to school each morning and be there when she returned. The pay wasn't much, but it kept a roof over their heads and food on the table. During the days, he took online courses, slowly working toward a degree in hospital administration. Someday, he promised himself, he would return to medicine, even if never again as a surgeon. Emma Winters had inherited Winters Enterprises from her father 5 years ago. At 35, she was one of the youngest CEOs in the city and determined to prove herself worthy of the position. Under her leadership, the company's profits had doubled, but so had employee turnover. Emma believed in excellence at all costs and had little patience for anything less. Her daughter Charlotte was her world, a precocious 8-year-old with her mother's determination and intelligence. Emma had raised her alone after her husband left when Charlotte was just a baby, unable to handle Emma's devotion to her career. She'd proven she didn't need him, building both a business empire and a good life for her daughter. The night Emma and Marcus's paths first crossed meaningfully was during a late board meeting. Emma had spilled coffee on important documents moments before the meeting was to begin. "Can someone get maintenance up here now?" she'd snapped at her assistant. Marcus had arrived quickly, mop in hand. "I need these cleaned up immediately," Emma had said without looking at him, gesturing to the coffee-stained papers on the floor. "I can try, but the ink is probably," Marcus had begun. "I don't need commentary, I need action," Emma had cut him off. "And next time, respond faster. Some of us have actual responsibilities here." The board members had chuckled, and Emma had felt a momentary satisfaction at establishing her authority. She hadn't noticed Marcus's flinch, or the way his shoulders had stiffened as he silently cleaned up her mess. 2 days later, Charlotte had collapsed at school. The diagnosis was devastating, a rare blood disorder requiring immediate transfusions. The hospital needed donors with an extremely uncommon blood type, one shared by less than 1% of the population. "We've put out a call, but it may take time to find a match," the doctor had told Emma gently. And time is something Charlotte doesn't have in abundance right now. Emma had felt her world crumbling. All her money, all her power, meant nothing in the face of her daughter's illness. She'd posted on social media, called in favors from influential friends, even offered monetary compensation for compatible donors. Nothing. Then a nurse had entered Charlotte's room with news: "We've found a match. A man who works at your company saw the post and came in immediately to be tested. He's donating now." When Emma had gone to thank the donor, she'd frozen in the doorway. There sat Marcus, the janitor she'd humiliated, quietly giving his blood for her daughter. "Why?" she'd whispered. "Why would you help us after how I treated you?" Marcus had looked up, surprise crossing his features. "You recognize me?" "Of course I do. I'm so sorry for how I spoke to you." Marcus had shrugged. "I'm not doing this for you. No child should suffer if there's something I can do about it." As the days passed and Charlotte began to recover, Emma learned more about Marcus. She discovered his past as a surgeon, the tragedy that had derailed his career, and his devotion to his daughter. She learned that he volunteered at a free clinic on weekends, using his medical knowledge to help those who couldn't afford care. She discovered that the man she dismissed as just a janitor had more compassion and dignity than many of the executives she dined with. "He reads to me," Charlotte told her mother one afternoon as Marcus left after a visit. "He does all the voices in the stories, even better than you do." Emma had smiled, watching through the window as Marcus met his daughter in the hospital hallway, the girl immediately launching into an animated story that had him laughing. When Charlotte was finally released from the hospital, Emma made a decision. She waited outside the building where she knew Marcus would be finishing his shift. "Mr. Rivera," she called as he exited, startling him. "Ms. Winters. How's Charlotte?" "She's home. She's doing well, thanks to you." Emma took a deep breath. "I'd like to offer you a position." Marcus had frowned. "I don't need charity." "It's not charity. It's recognition of talent and education being wasted. Our company is developing a healthcare division. We need someone who understands both medicine and administration. Someone with compassion as well as intelligence." She handed him a folder. "This is a real offer, with a salary commensurate with your experience and education. Think about it." Marcus had stared at the folder. "Why?" "Because I was wrong about you. And because I want to be the kind of person my daughter can be proud of." 6 months later, Marcus headed the new healthcare initiative at Winters Enterprises, developing programs to make medical care more accessible to underserved communities. His daughter Lily and Charlotte had become inseparable friends, often doing homework together in the company's break room after school. Emma and Marcus developed a professional respect that gradually evolved into friendship. They were different in many ways, Emma driven by ambition, Marcus by compassion, but they balanced each other, making both better leaders and people. One evening, as they worked late finalizing a proposal, Emma asked the question that had been on her mind for months. "That night, when I was so rude to you, why didn't you say something? Tell me who you really were?" Marcus had considered the question carefully. "Who I was didn't matter. Who I am did. I'm a father who loves his daughter. I'm someone who believes in dignity of work, whatever that work is. And I'm someone who believes people can change, including me, including you." Emma had nodded slowly. "I used to think strength meant never admitting weakness, never apologizing, never showing vulnerability. I thought that's what made a good leader. And now? Now I think true strength is having the courage to see people for who they really are, not just what they can do for you." She'd smiled. "Charlotte asked me yesterday if you and Lily might come over for dinner this weekend. Not for work, just as friends." Marcus had smiled back. "We'd like that." As the months passed, their friendship deepened. Emma learned to slow down, to value people over profit margins. Marcus regained confidence in his abilities beyond his lost surgical career. Their children thrived in the warm circle of their blended friendship. A year after Charlotte's illness, Emma stood at a podium, announcing the launch of the Rivera Medical Access Program, named in honor of Marcus's late wife. The initiative would provide medical care to children regardless of their family's ability to pay. "Sometimes," Emma said to the gathered crowd, "it takes nearly losing what's most precious to you to recognize what truly matters. And sometimes, the people we overlook are the very ones who have the most to teach us." In the audience, Marcus sat with Lily on one side and Charlotte on the other, his eyes bright with unshed tears. Later that evening, as the four of them shared a celebration dinner, Charlotte raised her glass of sparkling cider. "To new beginnings," she said with the wisdom of a child who had faced mortality and emerged stronger. "And to seeing people for who they truly are," Emma added, her eyes meeting Marcus's across the table. In that moment, surrounded by the unlikely family they had formed, Emma realized that the greatest leadership lesson she had ever learned came not from business school or her father's mentoring, but from a man who had every reason to turn his back on her but had chosen compassion instead. The blood that had saved her daughter had also, in a way, saved her, reminding her of the humanity that connects us all, regardless of title or position. And in that connection, she had found not just redemption, but the possibility of a fuller, richer life than she had ever imagined possible. As Marcus drove home that night, Lily sleeping in the back seat, he thought about how life's hardest moments sometimes led to unexpected blessings. He had lost so much, his wife, his career, his identity as a surgeon. But in that loss, he had found new purpose, new connections, and perhaps, the beginning of a new chapter. The janitor and the CEO. Two people who might never have truly seen each other if not for a crisis that stripped away titles and pretense, revealing the simple truth that we are all, in the end, just human beings trying our best to navigate this complicated world, sometimes failing, sometimes succeeding, but always with the capacity to grow and change. And in that truth lay the most powerful lesson of all, that compassion, freely given without expectation of return, holds the power to transform not just the recipient, but the giver as well.